Morning, Matthew.
You make a compelling case for Starmer doing more. You make a compelling... I love the argument that we're trapped in a sort of win-lose mentality. Would you say that our Prime Minister has that mentality?
I think in terms of Brexit, that's what he seems to be showing. But clearly, in his career to date and his transformation of the Labour Party, he's probably been able to deal with negotiations, reconcile differences, and collaborate with others. So he's clearly got those skills. So something else is constraining him. And I think one of the other points, I was just thinking about it as you were talking there on the introduction. One of the key things that the government should be doing now is shifting away from ideology and making policy on the basis of evidence. And given that he's been the head of the Department of Public Prosecutions, you'd have thought he'd be really into evidence. And of course, all the evidence shows that Brexit is an absolute disaster for the country. And if you're patriotic and you want the best for the country, you've really got to do something about that. And he clearly feels deeply about the success of the country and the strength of making public services really a lot more effective than they have been over the last 14 years. So I'm mystified as to what it is that's blocking him.
I was just about to ask you what you think it might be.
Well, I guess it might be factions within the Labour Party. It might also be that although they've got a large majority in Parliament, their percentage of the vote was, I think, 34% in terms of the general election. So there wasn't an overwhelming support for Labour from that particular metric. And that's a feature of our first past the post system. So maybe they're still worried about some of those red wall and marginal seats. And therefore, they're incredibly nervous about moving away from their fixed position that in their minds help them win the general election. But on the other hand, we've got their actions in relation to the winter fuel payment. And who does that affect? It affects older voters. Who voted for Brexit? Older voters. So I suspect they didn't do a demographic analysis by constituency of the impact of that policy, if that's the reason that's caused it. Or you could say that because they've gone for that, they aren't concerned about losing those votes. So therefore, what is it that's preventing Brexit?
You see, I just see it from a very simplistic point of view that we don't have enough money to fuel Keir Starmer, to keep our pensioners warm, but to basically fuel Keir Starmer's political programme. It's all reliant on growth. Growth in the UK has broadly been flatlining for 20 years. It's your article in BylineTimes. You look at it and you just think this is just an absolute no-brainer that you have to seek better trade with the EU. You have to, and yet there's absolute resistance.
Absolutely, and they're committed to tweaking the trade agreement that we have with the EU, such as getting a veterinary agreement and so forth, and that'll bring some benefits, but absolutely tiny benefits compared to putting up trade barriers with our biggest single trade partner. I mean, it's just bonkers.